let's get one thing clear. Yes, the facial hair is there. I didn't want to shave it for the intro because I realized I had it already in the video, which would look unprofessional and really weird. That being said, I still want to see how this goes. Welcome everybody to Under the Middle Rope. I'm your host Jose Tabuada, and we are right back into the groove of things, back to business with another episode of discussion, of thought, of all crazy thoughts. And yes, it was a crazy week in the world of wrestling, and I'm not talking about our TV stuff. I'm not talking about the promos and the storylines. No. We were in for a bit of a rude awakening last week. I think it's safe to say that, with the unexpected releases from WWE, and it was a lot of them, a surplus amount that I don't think I've ever seen in all my years of watching wrestling, and it's a tough swallow for sure. And I've had people ask me, hey, why don't you do an emergency podcast? One, I didn't think I was in the right mindset, only because this news is so fresh, and this is one that you need to settle down and discuss, because yes, I mean, aside from me, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of emotions, there was a lot of thoughts going into that breaking piece of news that I think that anybody needs to be in the right mindset instead of just completely blowing over. That was my thing. And number two, the releases weren't done. When we thought that the list was done, more people were released, and you heard more and more names, and you're just going insane. So that's why I decided to save it for this week. Now that everything's settled, now that we've heard all the information that we needed to hear, now is a good time to just, again, properly digest through this. In this episode, once again, Andrew Wolf Woltman is back, who essentially is now living at this podcast here. He's a solid dude. I'm not complaining. He just really likes to be on, and that's okay. And our new guest is Alex Mirza, also from the state of New York, or who lives in New York City, and I'm pretty sure that he lives nearby Wolf. I feel like I'm wrong, but they're nearby. I feel like they're in the same city, which is good. So that's what matters. So we talk about the releases. We also quickly touch up on the interesting Money in the Bank match, which is a fun conversation, and we introduced our new segment, Superstar of the Week. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode called Release Shocker. Okay, everybody. Now, welcome to our brand new look here on Under the Middle Rope. I found something thanks to Pete Atkinson, who's given helped us with this website with the proper layout, proper audio, proper video. So Skype is out the window. And in saying that, let's welcome our guest right back into this. Andrew Wolf Woltman is back because he's been asking to come on as a regular basis. Sure, I guess if he's okay with that, Wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. You begged and gave me money on the side. And introducing our new our newer guest for the show. He's been one that we've been wanting to have on for a while, and he's finally here, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Alex Mirza, or as he likes to call himself, the Lex Bot, or however he likes to say. Welcome, buddy.
Yeah, welcome. I'm happy to be here. It's an honor to speak with you two men. As you can see, I'm wearing the G1 Supercard shirt, the place where we all met in person for. Well, I met you in person for the first time.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I thought it was appropriate. It was appropriate for today.
Yeah, that was the night before WrestleMania 35 last year at Madison Square Garden. That was a great night. Weird night, I think, for the most part, for the three of us, knowing with the whole Enzo and Cass thing. And then,
yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that.
And then the Bret Hart thing and whatnot. But let's just get right into it. Originally what I wanted to do was to start off a brand new thing on the podcast, but I'm going to save it for next week, because last week on April 15th, we ran into or came across one of the biggest and darkest days in WWE that surprisingly does not include a death or whatnot. And I'm talking about the WWE releases. It was scary, I think, for the three of us. I think Vince McMahon came out with a very small statement to fight the Fightful or any other wrestling outlets and said, hey, we're just going to cut people. Good luck. And they're going to receive a text message or a quick phone call to let them know. Should I go through the list, gentlemen? It's long, and I think it's important. So you're going to see here on the next graphic, it's going to pop up. These are the names that were released in no particular order. Drake Maverick, Kurt Hawkins, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, Heath Slater, Aiden English, Eric Young, EC3, Leo Rush, Kurt Angle, which was a surprise to many, Sarah Logan, another surprise, WWE referee Mike Chioda, a 31-year veteran, released, which shocked a lot of people. Primo, Epico, Rowan, Mike and Maria Kanellis, Zack Ryder, No Way Jose, Rusev, Plug Your Ears Wolf, Deonna Purrazzo, Alexander Jacek, MJ Jenkins, Tiara, I can't say her name,
I think it's Tainara.
Tainara Conti, thank you, Lex. Tino Sabatelli, Nick Origelli, Cesar Bononi, Mars Wang, Dorian Mack, and then it did not stop at the wrestlers. They continued on with some producers or some agents who have been furloughed, or in other words, temporarily laid off for the time being. Dave Finlay, Lance Storm, Mike Rotunda, or also known as IRS, Shane Helms, or the Hurricane for those that know, Scott Armstrong, Pat Buck, Sarah Stock, Sean Davari, Billy Kidman, and then some other performance center coaches who have also placed on furlough leave. A Steele, Serena Deeb, Kendo Cashin, and then finally a writer, Andrea Lissenberger, who was involved in the creation of the Mandy and Otis storyline, has also been released. Lex, let's start with you. What were your initial thoughts with this? This was just unbelievably crazy. So let's start with you.
Yeah, it really was. I remember when we heard that was going to happen. We got the report that Vince McMahon had this call with all of his staff and talked about, there's going to be layoffs, and it came at a very weird time, I think, just because they had the XFL had just declared bankruptcy. Linda McMahon had just pledged like $18 million to Donald Trump's Super PAC, and a lot of other things that happened. Thank you, PAC. But no, yeah, it was pretty crazy. Like to see, I think a lot of people expected people to be let go, but just I guess not in such a huge amount, just all at once, just one after another. We kept hearing, I think I said it best in one of our many wrestling chats that I can't imagine being a WWE wrestler at that time. Just sitting in your house by yourself, with your family or whatever else. Just kind of dreading if your phone's going to ring. Expecting to get a call from Mark Carano or whoever else saying, sorry, we have to let you go. I can't imagine that. Just sitting there, nerves shot, and then the phone rings, and just a sinking feeling that comes with it. I know some of these wrestlers in question were wanting to leave, had asked for their release or something like that. So for them, I'm sure. But what it comes down to is a lot of these people, a lot of these wrestlers and producers, if they are gone forever, are very talented people. And I'm sure a lot of them are going to lay on their feet one way or another. But still, just to see WWE be affected by this pandemic the way a lot of companies, a lot of corporations have been for the past few weeks, and to see sort of people that I think a lot of us feel like, even though we don't know these people, we feel like we have a connection to them because we see them on TV, we see them wrestle, we follow them on social media and everything. So to see, these, wrestlers, performers, people that we, a lot of us have interest in or invest in, just suddenly be told, you don't have a job anymore, you have to go somewhere else, especially at such an uncertain time in our history in this country and in this world. It really was a really tough blow for me, at least for me, speaking personally. Like I was my girlfriend would tell you, I was very just kind of lethargic and just very like down the rest of the day after this happened. So it definitely was very unfortunate to see all this happen. But since it happened, we have seen a lot of positive messages being sent out by these wrestlers, by everybody else. So that's been good at least. But yeah, it definitely was a very very serious, very dark day, I guess you could say, for professional wrestling.
One name that I realized I skipped was Rusev. That was, I think, one of the bigger
No, you
names.
said that.
Did I say Rusev? Sorry, I just
said
wasn't
Rusev.
sure because I was going through the list and I wasn't positive if I did. Wolf, I know you were hoping that the releases would stop as time went on. Not to mention one of your all-time favorites was part of that. And of course, you have a picture of her up on your wall. Even Lex and his girlfriend Ellie was very sweet enough to even send you a cameo for your birthday or for Christmas or one of the other.
That was very nice. Valentine's Day, yes.
Valentine's Day, sorry, even better. Yeah. Wolf, your initial thoughts on the whole thing.
It didn't have to be this way. I mean, there's a lot of numbers flying around, and I'm not a financial guy. I'm not going to pretend that I know all about what they have in their banks, but I understand enough to know that they're not saving much by letting all these people go in the middle of a pandemic, and it's kind of a really, I don't want to use the S word. You told me not to curse anymore.
Please go, like I said, if you need to go
it's
ahead.
It's a really thing to do in the middle of a pandemic to let all these people go. I mean, I think the number I heard was they were saving $700,000 a month, and they have at least $500 million in the bank for a rainy day. They could sell 0 tickets for the rest of the year and they'd still turn a profit. But I guess that's just, I don't know, Vince McMahon and his profit margins. we dance around the subject a lot. It's just really bad business practices. It doesn't reflect well on him, especially after he went bankrupt on XFL through no huge fault of his own.
No,
I mean,
No.
that's kind of on the pen. I'm sure if the season continued, it probably would have thrived.
I thought it would have got season 2, to be honest with you. I was
hoping
ready for a
really.
second one. Yeah.
I was actually going to go to a game the last weekend in March.
Yeah.
But then there's also, and I don't want to turn this into politics because that's pretty much everywhere else, but the $18 million donation to Donald Trump's super PAC the day before these releases happen, and WWE being declared an essential service, which raises a lot of alarms and seems way too convenient timing. I had a number of people that aren't even wrestling fans message me and say, can you believe this? Like, that it's declared essential? And frankly, no, I didn't believe it, but I think we see why. And it's all around.
Now, just to back up on Wolf's point here, according to our lovable wrestling journalist Dave Meltzer, 703,000 per month was going to be saved with the amount of releases that were announced last week, which is a total amount of $4 million. Which, when you hear about the amount they were saving, because I think, again, Wolf brought up all the financial statements here. There was a cash capacity of $500 million that was expected to come out of this. At the end of the day, $4 million to us is like what, $1 or $3, and like in a paycheck that we can get, maybe 40 if you want to be specific. You want to try to ratio it out. It was essentially a puzzling move, and while I was going to play a little bit of devil's advocate in the sense that during the times of the coronavirus, yes, there were a lot of jobs impacted by due to just the lack of production, just a lack of necessity at all. So from that perspective, I kind of get it. And I don't like saying that because I do understand that, like, when a company is not being used as much, or when a company just has like very limited and scarce like supplies, it's going to happen, and we've seen it already. And I think WWE was no exception to that. And let's face it, a lot of us were always complaining. A lot of us were saying, not just the hardcore wrestling fans, but like the casual wrestling fans, saying that sirens go up.
Vince just called the police on us for speaking.
Like, a lot of people were saying, "What is going on?"
Wolf, mute yourself. Wolf, mute yourself.
I think it is Wolf. Yeah, Wolf is.
Yeah,
Something's happening around Wolf's area. Who lives in New York?
just trucks going down the street.
Figured. As I was saying, like, a lot of people were complaining. A lot of casual fans were complaining that yes, there was a lot of excess talent in WWE, and let's face it, we knew that WWE was signing people just to make sure they didn't go to AEW, New Japan, ROH, whatever the company is,
wrestling,
whatever it is. A lot of people were just saying, hey, you know what? It was probably the reason why they didn't want to, for example, let EC3 go or the Revival go until they were formally released a couple weeks before, or the week before this all happened. So it doesn't surprise me in that sense, and that's why I think I was having a hard time just trying to feel like as crushed in that sense, because like I said, a lot of these people wanted the releases. Rusev was the biggest one. I think out of all these people, Rusev was the one that he wanted out. He was just sitting out at this point. He was tired of with that Lana story that happened in January. It's just for me, it just wasn't one to just run and grab a beer just to calm down and process all of this. It's hard to, but at the end of the day, like, both of you were right. These people have jobs. These people just had a paycheck. These people wanted to, just try to support, fund, whatever it is, and it's gone. And it's shady. And so I guess, like, Wolf, I'll start with you here in the sense that, what, like, do you fall for the reasons of like COVID and whatnot? Like, I think you kind of touched on it earlier. If you want to expand a little bit more, do you kind of believe that COVID is like the situation? Was this just like finally an escape for them to just kind of get rid of all this like talent that they were hoarding?
I feel like it's more of a scapegoat than anything else. They could have kept them. None of these people had to be fired. WWE had the money to pay them, whether they were running shows or not, but they used this to clean house and show a wider profit margin.
Lex, same question.
I mean, I think one thing some people have taken into account, but I think has been sort of swept underneath just because of everything else going on, is that, it is tradition for WWE to release a group of superstars after WrestleMania comes around. And a lot of the people that did get released, some of them were very long tenured, like Heath Slater and Zack Ryder have been there for like 15 years, something like that. But a lot of them were people who, in wrestling terminology weren't really figured in, weren't really, being used all that much. Some not at all. So, there are some names you could point to and think, okay, they were going to leave anyway. They were going to leave anyway. Certain people that, like one thing I guess I could compare it to is people were saying how I think Anderson and Gallows, they had been re-signed like a few months ago for another like 5 years or so.
Something like that.
And then suddenly, Vince tells them, "Sorry, we can't do that anymore." What it makes me think of is when he signed Bret Hart to like a 20-something year contract, unprecedented contract back in the '90s, and then when the Monday Night Wars went in full effect, and Vince realized he couldn't make good on that on that contract, he told Bret, "You should go to WCW. Like I can't keep this promise that I made you." So I guess the fact that like people get re-signed. It really is a statement to, I guess, how flimsy a lot of these WWE contracts are, because they can tell you you're gone whenever they want to, and if you want to leave, they can stop you if they don't want you to leave. I mean, you look at someone like Luke Harper, Brody Lee, who have been looking to leave like multiple times. Have asked for his release, hadn't been given it, had to wrestle on TV a couple times, and then finally got his release like only a few months ago. And Rusev's another one. I know Mike Kanellis is another, Mike Bennett.
Yep.
So it really is just. I think COVID was probably more of a. It was sort of the I think an excuse or triggering action that sort of brought to light, I think, what a lot of us either knew or didn't really either knew or didn't like talk about as much, the fact that just WWE contracts, the whole it was being debated for months, the whole independent contractor thing, like how can you call yourself an independent contractor if you're only allowed to work for one company and you have to do everything, all this stuff. And it's I think it's issues that we knew existed for a while, but I think with this whole pandemic thing going on, we were seeing the, I guess, perverse or negative effects of this problem with just how WWE contracts work these days, really brought to the forefront, to the center of our attention. So it's a problem that's been there for a while, and I think the pandemic just sort of brought it up and just made it even more apparent to everyone else that this problem exists and needs to be addressed.
Yeah, and that Bret Hart is an interesting point, because I recently saw his Dark Side of the Ring episode from season 1, and that is where it was emphasized a lot. And yeah, I mean, Bret Hart, weirdly enough, that was like one of the seeds to plan for the Montreal Screwjob, I think, when that happened, which was scary enough. But again, I think both of you make interesting points. It felt unnecessary, and I agree with you in that sense that, yeah, I think it was just an excuse to go. But I think the one question that I have now is how do you approach WWE? Like, what do you do? Because I know I personally, for one, I've been hesitant to watch shows. I've been iffy about it. Like, I think I skipped SmackDown or Raw. I mean, like, which I don't still like. I'll catch you when I can nowadays, but like I wasn't like as glued. Lex, I'm gonna start with you on this. Because one of the points that you were telling us personally was, you still wanted to watch it anyways. You still wanted to just kind of like, just like kind of get like NXT, for example, kind of show the support. What like, do you want to expand on that? And it says like, why would you continue to, not to come at you or anything, but
no, Pete did that already. Don't worry.
Yeah, but like what what were your thoughts? Why don't you continue to watch and continue to support in that sense?
Yeah, of course. I did say in one of our many wrestling chats that I wanted to keep watching NXT tonight, just because of all that was going on. I know a lot of people in that company that don't deserve to have their jobs taken away. Because there was always that concern that NXT releases are coming right after this episode of NXT. They're going to start letting people go once the episode comes and goes. And they have, but it was mostly people who were working the live events, which there aren't live events right now. So, that was a little less, I guess, harsh than the main roster business. But yeah, my point was basically that I didn't want to, abandon, I guess, for lack of a better word, a lot of the other wrestlers that work for NXT, especially NXT. A lot of developmental people that have a lot of potential, and probably their job security isn't as secure as the main roster people, which isn't saying much at this point. But I just felt like I didn't want to sort of turn my back on the people. Obviously I don't agree with what WWE did. I mean, you guys could tell anyone that I usually am a pretty big supporter of WWE. I mean, it was how I got introduced to wrestling about 5 years ago, and it's brought me a lot of enjoyment. It was my foray into wrestling as a fan. So usually, I am pretty. I will say I am pretty loyal to them as a company. But I think because of that, it was really difficult for me to process when they did this, mass firing, and why it kind of brought me down so much when it happened was because I'm a guy who wants to support WWE because I've always enjoyed their product. I'm usually not as critical on them as a lot of people are. But yeah, when this happened, it was a harsh blow. So I guess for the sake of the people that still are there, people who still are employed, who could potentially lose their jobs over a case of this segment didn't draw as much as this one, so we don't think you're as useful to us anymore. So you're on the chopping block now. Yeah, I mean, I guess to me, my thought process was just it's avoiding them altogether. I guess in my view wasn't any way to help the issue or solve the issue or anything. I know a lot of people were pretty staunchly defending other companies like AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan, who were as of now not letting anybody go, who were keeping people employed and weren't just sitting a bunch of people loose just because of just to make sure their stock portfolio stays where they want to be. And of course, WWE is a much bigger company than any of them, and obviously they have a lot of. I'm not going to defend what they did, but I mean, obviously they have a lot more just things going on, being a publicly traded billion-dollar company. A lot of different things, and like what we said about them, having an excess of talent. But going back to I think to me, I think just not watching NXT out of protest to me just didn't feel like the right thing to do. A lot of people will say, even though they're under the same bubble, NXT feels like a completely different product compared to WWE. They do things very differently. And as far as we know, Vince McMahon himself is not that heavily involved in NXT's product. So in a way, I guess if it was Raw or SmackDown that was on the next day, maybe I would take a break from that, just to, distance myself from, all those, I guess, sad emotions that came as a result of this. But I don't know. I think just for me, NXT, I sort of separate in my head, and I know a lot of people have, as a different show entirely, even though it is WWE. I think there's a lot of great people that work for NXT that don't deserve to lose their jobs, and I didn't want to, I guess, turn my back on them as opposed to the company that let a lot of people go the previous day or whatever. It's the best I can summarize it, I guess.
Wolf, I was gonna switch to you because the mindset was a little bit different last week in that aspect. Obviously, you're right all AEW right now. What were your thoughts on just kind of just the watch support that day? And because I mean, obviously we have the NXT and AEW wars, and I don't even want to get into the ratings of that night, but you were against watching it for a bit. So if you want to elaborate on that, and kind of what was your whole mindset with the whole thing after it all went down from that perspective?
It's kind of hard to quantify something like this because you are a fan of the product, so you do want to support in certain ways the people that are still there. But when it came to the immediate reaction, I'm a watcher of AEW Wednesday nights anyway. Lex will watch NXT and we'll swap spoilers, which is pretty good, symbiotic relationship.
Good compromise. Yeah.
I mean, but I just couldn't justify also watching NXT that night. I just didn't really want to have to hear anything about WWE. It just didn't really feel like something I should be participating in because, I don't want to get necessarily into who's right and who's wrong, but you look at somebody like Tony Khan, who's being very supportive of all his people, whether they want to work or not. He's still paying them. He's bringing in people that have lost their jobs, independent wrestlers, paying them for work, letting them have a spot to show what they can do and giving them a payday they wouldn't otherwise have. I support proper business ethics. When it comes to boycotting WWE on the whole, it's an idea I could get behind. It's not something I know that I'd be able to commit to because you do get sucked into this culture, and as much as you want to enact change, you don't know if you can. and sometimes you feel like you're just too committed to the product as itself. I want WWE to change. That's something I absolutely need for them to do. Like, I'm not talking about storylines or whatever. I need better business practices from them. It's getting harder to justify supporting a company that runs a show in Saudi Arabia twice a year and doesn't really take care of their full-time roster as much as they might someone like Bill Goldberg. It's a difficult conversation to have. Odds are I'm going to watch Monday Night Raw tonight, but I'm still not feeling great about WWE.
Yeah, and of course at the time of this taping, because these episodes do come out on Friday, it is Monday Night Raw night for us.
Did I just blow that for you? Were you like not hoping people don't figure out when you tape?
Sorry?
Was I just ruin it? Like, did I say
no, it'll happen. Like that's just the nature of production. It's it's good to provide context, you know.
Yeah, watch like Friday
where we
comes
are
out
in the week, which is also why I don't want to do like weekly show reviews because we're scattered.
Why didn't they talk about the fact that Joey Ryan's now Universal Champion? That happened on Monday.
Look, I'll say this because I've been a fan longer than both of you combined. I've been a fan since I was 7.
Weird flex, but okay.
Sorry?
Weird flex, but okay.
It is. It's a good flex. I like the flex. I've been a fan. I've been a fan since I was 7, and I've seen this company go through a lot of ups and downs in just my period alone. And of course, if you were to talk to somebody that was like 15 still watching WWE, they can say the same thing because they went through even more stuff as a fan. And I agree. It is tougher for me to support them. Now, that being said, I think just because of how long I've been invested with this company, how long I've been a fan of, and still wanting to I'm still saving up money in the hopes that we still get Los Angeles next year. Now that may not be a thing. It's just like it's my thought is a hybrid of both because yes, like I still want to support the company that I grew up with. I'm a big fan of what their stuff, and that's just my entertainment at the end of the day. I've had a lot of people say, hey, there's better wrestling with New Japan, with all that stuff, right? And to me, it's just like, yeah, there is, and I'll tune in every now and then, but just like what I've been grown accustomed to and what has been my entertainment, what is like the way that I can just like enjoy something, it is WWE for the most part. And it's not to discredit anything else outside of WWE. That's just what I'm into. That's just like what I find joy in for the most part, right? I mean, like look behind me. You have like all these WWE Funko Pops, some loose ones. You have I have 2 replica titles here on the side. A lot of like merch stuff that I can just that I've just immersed myself in.
I remember when we did Mania weekend, we went to G1 Supercard at WrestleMania, and G1 Supercard probably objectively had better matches, but you had a better time at WrestleMania.
Yeah, of course, and that's something again from that perspective. And I said it so many times already in the first few weeks, but I was just someone I was just looking forward to since I was 7, right? And like I said, it's not to discredit the Supercard, although I think we can agree before we go on that the first half of that show was a bit rough, and then the second I've kind of picked up on it, or I guess the ROH portion. But anyways, that's not the discussion of this. Yeah, at the end of the day, no, I knew like I knew what I was going to enjoy myself more, and at the end of the day, yeah, and in that example, yeah, WrestleMania was again not to discredit the Supercard, but Wolf's right. There are a lot of business practices that just don't make sense, and this was just another example. I mean, for example, like Vince McMahon came out in 2018. In 2018, when the XFL was announced, saying that we don't have any shares in XFL, we have no ties to it. This is going to be a completely separate entity. And then when the XFL went bankrupt last week, it was announced that it was discovered that, the WWE had a bit of share in it. Another big lie. And of course, which again led to the conspiracy theory. Wait, were the releases happening so they can save what they lost with XFL? Which again, like, whether if it's true or not, right? There you go, right? That's just another point. If it's true or not, right? I mean, like, it is a shitty move. It is a crappy move to do. Right. And then, of course, Wolf brought up Saudi Arabia. Also true. I don't watch the shows at all. Like, people know me as a big WWE fan. They ask me, are you going to watch Saudi? You're going to watch Crown Jewel? No. Why would I? Why can't they have like their Super Showdown back in Australia? Give them a show again, like, or the UK, for crying out loud, who have been begging for a show. Like, Saudi? Really? And that's the other thing that frustrates me too about this whole thing is like how much money that they get from like Saudi, and then the releases still happen. It's just like I think at the end of the day, it's just the one thing that I purposely choose to ignore, but also acknowledge is that Vince McMahon at the end of the day is just a terrible human being. There is no doubt about it. You've seen it all with the death of Owen, with the treatment of Benoit, which I think that was justified. There was a lot of shady stuff that this man has done to make sure his company has grown, and that's just the mindset of any billionaire. I don't think that anybody can deny that. So it's hard to me to lean on one side or the other, but I think it's good. I think it's good for any wrestling fan to acknowledge, yeah, there is a crappy business side, but there is also your entertainment. I think it can be easier said and done now than to split the two up. I don't know if we can moving forward, and that's the next question for you both. What happens moving forward? Do you put WWE on notice? Do you continue to cruise along as is? I know some of us got excited for Money in the Bank. We'll probably watch it. Wolf, I'll start with you on this. What happens moving forward with this company now that this is all said and done in terms of like outlook, their perception, et cetera, with their shows?
It's gonna knock them down a peg. This is another scratch on their appearance. You know, it's really hard to quantify something like this, and I don't know if anything really will change, but that doesn't mean people shouldn't stop asking for change. I don't know exactly how you do that. I'm sure there's people out there that have better ideas than I would. As for we'll talk about Money in the Bank later, but yeah, good God. I really hope Brock Lesnar's at the top of the building throwing barrels like Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Are we done?
Yeah.
Your points there. Lex, what do you see with this company moving forward?
I mean, it's difficult to quantify right now. I mean, we were all shocked when NXT still beat AEW in the ratings and the overall ratings after what happened. I think we all expected a lot for NXT at least to take a much bigger hit after everything that happened. I mean, that could just be a result of people maybe thinking the way I do, that NXT is its own entity and deserves to be supported, even if, WWE itself has, pretty shrewd business practices. But ratings have been going down ever since this whole crowdless era has sort of started. I think once we sort of start getting things back on track, we have no idea when that'll be. But once that starts coming back, once we start getting crowds again, you have to wonder like how many people really, know or care about what's going on backstage. I have to wonder how many like casual viewers of WWE who maybe like aren't as into the backstage politics and stories and reports and everything as much as we are, like, do they even know that this? I mean, my mom knew about it, and she just reread it in the paper or something, and she doesn't know anything about WWE. So I guess it's coming out, but I wonder like, are people going to treat it just sort of like oh, this is something that has to happen because WWE is, because all companies have to cut back right now. Like, I know the company I work for had to let go a bunch of people, so I wonder just how many people are going to look at it as, oh, this is just something that has to happen because of the pandemic going on, or how many will just read more deeper into it and find out, oh, they have 500 million in saving or billion in savings or whatever. Like this easily could have been avoided or whatever. It's hard to say just because Raw and SmackDown, at least SmackDown's rating wasn't down that much from as it has been the past couple of weeks, just because of the crowd, the lack of a crowd. Nor was it a bad show or anything, but NXT was pretty great, I thought. But I think, as far as predicting where the company's going to go from here, I think it's going to be less of how the fans are going to respond and more of how the talent are going to respond. Because you have to think, all these people now know, okay, here's how valuable I am to this company, like where they're willing to let someone go who's been there for 15 years, or Mike Chioda, the referee, who's been there for like 30-something years, how much you are actually worth to this company as a performer, as an employee, going forward. I mean, I was wondering, like, there was thoughts like, are they going to offer some of these people to come back when this is all over? And we don't know if that's for sure or not. But if they do, are they going to want to come back? Like, now that they now know, how much value they have to this company, like what they're willing to prioritize over, their jobs versus, making more, keeping their stock portfolio up. Honestly, like, we know that Vince McMahon is, good friends with Donald Trump. I don't claim to know Vince McMahon's entire like political viewpoints, but the more I see the news and the more I watch like commentary shows, it seems like a lot of I don't want to get too political, but a certain party of people seem to value the keeping the economy alive over human lives to an extent. I don't want to group WWE in that necessarily, but just because people are they're already under fire for having shows during this time, being deemed an essential business and everything like that. But yeah, I think what we have to really look out for is how the talent are going to respond, because this has to be probably the biggest blow to like locker room morale than as anything we've ever seen. I mean, maybe even since the Montreal screw job. I know like people were saying, like going back on that, people were saying how like the Undertaker was really pissed. Mick Foley wanted to leave. Like people were thinking like, oh, we can't trust Vince anymore because of what he did. And it's a question of whether like can you really be surprised that a promoter would want to screw over one of the wrestlers? But that's off topic. But anyway, yeah, I think what we have to look out for really is how the employees are going to respond going forward if they're offered to come back. Are they going to want to come back? Like having seen how this company will respond to such a big economic upheaval like the pandemic has been, do they want to put themselves through that again? You have to wonder how that's going to be. That to me, I think is the thing we got to look out for going forward as far as how this company operates after this.
Yeah, I think Lex hit the nail on the head there. It's the company response. I mean, we're seeing reports that people were upset about the employee that had contracted the virus, who is completely recovered from what we're told. But yeah, it's that trust, and of course, I mean, let me ask you both: if you were in that situation, just quick yes or no answer. If you were in that situation, or you can elaborate if you want. If you were in that situation, you were released. Vince McMahon comes back to you and says, "Hey, do you want to come back under a better deal?" Would you do it?
I guess it depends on who I am. If you're someone like Gallows or Anderson that was, going to have a long-term job with the company, then, maybe.
Well, I say you in particular, not necessarily like just like a talent, but if like you, right, the Lex bot, were like released by the company and then asked to brought back, would you do it?
I guess it depends on what the situation is. I mean, if I know I can work somewhere else, then probably not. But if I know if it's a promise of at this point people are going to be looking at what's going to feed my family, what's going to put food on my table, and if it means just sitting at home getting a check from WWE every month, like at this stage and what's going on in the world, I think I'd probably take it.
Wolf?
No, I wouldn't go back.
You wouldn't do it at all. Yeah, I'm kind of with Wolf on that. I'm kind of with Wolf. I would look at the situation, but it's just the track record of WWE is such a bad track record. I don't know if I would do it. I don't know if I would. The last question on this topic before we move on. Who do you think benefits from this the most? Because like I said, there were people that were this is kind of like the positive thing I want to look at, because there are people that are probably happy that they're released. Wolf, we'll start with you on this. Who do you think is a few couple talent that you would think can shine from this and kind of like the Drew McIntyre route, I would say, kind of get bigger, better, and then just completely take over, maybe make that extra run with WWE, but just in general, just coming back from such a dark moment.
Well, we all know the joke, but I sincerely hope that in about 5 years, Heath Slater is bulked out the gills like the Hulk, beats Brock Lesnar in the main event of WrestleMania, and just says to him, "You should have given a shit about my kids."
Yeah.
But, talent like Zack Ryder, people like Rusev, people that weren't being used, that can go to a company that will appreciate their talents and give them a spotlight, I feel like they'll benefit from this. I look forward to seeing Matthew Cardona is all elite.
Lex?
I mean, yeah, I think Zack Ryder, like you said, Matt Cardona is a big one, because I've seen more people talking about him since he got released than, probably in the past 10 years, somewhere that people are talking about Zack Ryder again, and just what a big influence he was on just not just WWE, but wrestling as a whole, but, bringing the whole social media aspect into it. I think, honestly, pretty much a lot of people, I think, are going to benefit from this. Zack Ryder is definitely one of them. I think Drake Maverick, people have been, he's got the spotlight right now going into, even though he's been released, he's still being allowed to compete in the NXT Cruiserweight tournament. I'm really curious to see on Wednesday how that's going to play out, like how he's going to, what they're going to do with it. Like, are they going to, and there was that rumor that just went out recently about someone's going to appear on Raw. By now we'll know who it is, but we heard that someone who was released is going to appear on Raw this week. I heard that report from Ryan Satin or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all signs, I think, point to Drake Maverick, but if it's somebody else, I guess we'll see. I'm not going to call it because it'll already have happened by the time it goes out. But I think Drake Maverick's definitely one of them. I've seen all so much support come out from him ever since he spoke out about his release and everything. It's pretty remarkable to see everyone just supporting these guys. And I got like an email from Pro Wrestling T saying like buy the t-shirts of the people who are just released.
Oh yeah, I know. So did I.
Yeah, like Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder, Galvin Anderson.
I got fired from Heath Slater.
Exactly, and Zack Ryder going from still there to not still here to not there, and things like that. So I think a lot of people who have, I mean, you've seen EC3's recent social media posts, just really cryptic, just like kind of
he's somebody else.
Yeah, stuff. So I mean, I think anyone who can. Like the spotlight's on you right now. If you're one of these guys that's been released, like if people are talking about you right now. So I think the people who can benefit the most from that, who can capitalize on that, I think Zack Ryder is definitely one of them from the whole social media thing. EC3 has definitely been one of them. Drake Maverick's definitely been one of them. Heath Slater, of course, also one of them. Anyone who can really just take this big, just controversial, everyone's talking about, and sort of, as bad as it is, make it work in your advantage, and make a big impact wherever you end up. Those are the people I think are going to benefit the most, and maybe eventually be offered to come back in a few years. But yeah, we'll see. I think the ones Wolf named are definitely the ones that are I think going to come out of this looking better than they ever were before.
While Lex brought up the Ryan Satin point, Wolf, did you not know about that?
No, I just went to Twitter right now, and I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You know what? I think my bigger name is Rusev. There is just something, I think like he has so much potential, and we've seen himself get over with a bloody phrase says Happy Rusev Day, which is a shirt I have that I got at the 2018 Royal Rumble where the three of us were at and didn't even know. Well, I think you two knew each other.
I knew Wolf was there. We hung out. Wolf and I hung out.
Yeah, I didn't know you guys existed, but I was there with you in spirit. Right. And I know I can sit here and say I had a much better seat than Wolf had that night. But
we got drunk with two Scots people afterwards. So
yeah, that works out.
I was like 10 rows from the.
Oh shit! Wolf
wow, we lost Wolf. Okay,
more.
Yeah. Well, no, there he is. Hi, hello, welcome back. Where were you? Hello. Yes. Hi.
Well, how would I get down here? Anyway,
okay. Now I'm on top.
No, like before we go, Wolf is really lagging, but okay, great, we got him back. What I was saying that Wolf was sitting behind the stage and I was like directly in front. But anyways, that's just
I was in the nosebleeds.
We're getting side. I had the better seat of the three of you. We're getting sidetracked. I do truly think that Rusev is going to benefit the most. He's a guy that got his can get anything over, strong, amazing in the ring. A pretty good promo, even though originally they went the traditional foreigner route, and the guy can do it.
He's evolved.
He's really evolved into what he is today. And like I said, in 2018, so hot, so that pan was so boiling, and then it didn't strike at WrestleMania 34. And I think we all wish it did, and it didn't. But I just think that Rusev is somebody that I don't know where he would go if I had to pick one. Maybe AEW, but I'm not 100% positive on it because I don't see him in Japan. I kind of see him in Japan. Do you see him in Japan?
Possibly. I can see him in Japan. Yeah.
Really?
Possibly.
I don't know. To me, I just feel like he would just excel better in AEW. I don't know in what capacity yet, but I think at the end of the day, no matter who goes where, I think the one thing that a lot of people I think need to kind of understand is that yes, these are people that have a better chance, but I don't think they would be instantly elevated unless there's a really special case. So that top spot, because I know a lot of people were just arguing and debating, take them out. They're not being used. They're going to be a great star in AEW, but maybe AEW may not use them to that capacity. So I think if they just let them build whoever it is that ends up coming on top. Let them build slowly, and then eventually they can get to where they are. But we'll see what happens in the coming months. And
I'll say something nice about AEW, but breaking my gimmick that I was saying, I'm the biggest fan. We're all
Lex is a guy that likes to say that he likes to be very critical about AEW every now and then, right?
Well, you don't have a sweatshirt, so don't even talk.
I'm fine if I don't. I have this sweater.
I won't see the critic in me will probably say, "Oh, AEW has a fan base that, is it so unfair to say?" doesn't dislike being critical of WWE. I think that's probably fair to say. I think a lot of fans of that company are on board with taking it to the man, I guess you could say. But I think, framing it from a more positive light, it's a company and a fan base that loves to see great talent be rewarded for being great talent. I think that's why I don't necessarily agree with the whole Brody Lee being Vince McMahon type thing that they're doing with him right now. But I think, like I said, it is a company that wants to see great talent that they've seen other places get the chance to shine. And I think Rusev and Zack Ryder are definitely two guys, I think, from this big release that I think are maybe earmarked to end up at AEW because they have the experience, they have the love of the fans, they have the kinship from the people who run the place. I think that out of everyone who's been let go so far, I think maybe the Brody Lee example is maybe proof that is somewhere that they're definitely going to be welcome and would definitely thrive.
I agree. Absolutely agree.
While you were talking, I just kind of imagined Rusev showing up in New Japan and joining Los Ingobernables, and now I'd want to see him and Evil be tag team partners.
Oh, hell yeah.
I can see it. I can see that.
Absolutely.
I really want to hear the Miroslav Barniashev.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rusev to New Japan. Let's go. Keep
go.
going.
So let's switch gears here because let's switch gears. It was a big. Let's end up on a little bit of a lighter note. Let's quickly talk about Money in the Bank because I think that's one thing that I think it can't be ignored. And I know Wolf has had a lot of stuff to say on outside of his podcast, had a lot of stuff to say. So I'm happy he's here. WWE announced that the Money in the Bank, their Money in the Bank ladder match this year will not be traditionally inside the ring or not even be in the Performance Center alone in Orlando. What is going to happen is that currently at their headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut at Titan Towers, the match will start on the ground floor and it will work their way up to the roof of WWE headquarters where the briefcase will be hanging, which, of course, if you don't know, has the opportunity of a lifetime to cash in for a WWE Championship match anytime, anywhere for the next 12 months. Should we start with Wolf Lex to see what he has thoughts on this?
Let Lex go first.
You know what? Let's start over to Wolf. So again, essentially,
I think he's chomping at the bit.
You are starting at the ground floor. You're working your way up to the roof where the briefcase is waiting for you.
Wolf, it's so stupid. Did they pull these out of the same things where they get the Family Guy manatee jokes? Jesus Christ.
Oh no, Wolf is cutting out. No. Okay, go.
He's fine with me on my end.
You're good.
Who came up with this idea?
I don't know.
This feels like a Bruce Pritchard or Jeremy Borash creation to me.
Maybe.
It feels like a Rube Goldberg thing. It feels like somebody watched the movie Rat Race and said, what if we do that? But honestly,
I love Rat Race.
Here's what needs to happen. The bell rings, the match starts, everyone starts fighting, and then Ricochet runs outside, grabs a bunch of suction cups, and just climbs the tower. And then he gets up there, and then, like Brandon Stroud said, Brock Lesnar's up there holding barrels, throwing them down, like Donkey Kong. And then I don't know, what do you do how do you get up there? Do you take the stairs? Do you take the elevator? Are you just pausing?
That's the question.
That's gonna be the question.
That's the intrigue.
And I think, sorry to Wolf to cut you off, because I'm going to presume this is going to be another cinematic match, like what we've had with the Boneyard match, like we had the Firefly Funhouse match. This is gonna be
stupid.
I hate that after all of what happened last week. This intrigues the living hell out of me. Lex, your thoughts on this whole thing?
Like you said, I think it's just another example of the introduction of more cinematic style matches like the Boneyard match, sort of inspired by the Found Deletion Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy match from TNA. It sort of brought, I think this whole crowdless era sort of brought in a lot of new possibilities for how matches can be now. But you look at the Boneyard match, you look at the Firefly Funhouse match, you look at the Gargano and Ciampa match from NXT, the Edge and Randy Orton match, just things like that. No, it's definitely an interesting concept. I mean, it's pretty. I'm sure, like Wolf said, it's pretty out there. It's pretty crazy to think about. But WWE has the best production team of any wrestling company in the world right now. So I think this is they have the means to make this memorable. Whether that's in a good way or a bad way, I don't know. But God, what was I gonna say? The one thing that one of the good matches from WrestleMania this year was I think most would agree was the ladder match between Morrison, Jimmy Uso, and Kofi Kingston.
Yeah, probably.
But the only issue with that is when they're doing all these crazy spots with ladders where, they're hurting themselves bad and doing all this crazy stuff, like without a crowd response, it just sort of doesn't hit as hard. It's not as
for sure.
It definitely struggles from not having a crowd to react to these big ladder moments.
I can only imagine what the crowd would have reacted to when the three of them took out the titles together at the same time, and then Morrison taking the biggest bump of his life,
boom, and land on the ladder, with the belts, So, like, I won't say it's not a smart idea. Like, it's difficult. Money in the Bank is like a intriguing and like a stipulation that people really get excited for. The past couple of years have been kind of but it's difficult to have a ladder match without a crowd because it's without the crowd reacting to these big giant things happening. Like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes it can feel kind of like stupid, like even stupid, like Wolf said, stupid. Like it's without a crowd to react to these crazy things. Like, what are you really doing them for? So I think this is given the circumstances, this was actually a pretty, I think, well read. This was a good read, I think, by whoever came up with this. This was a intelligent move given the fact that there's no crowds right now. Cinematic matches are what everyone's talking about right now, between the WrestleMania matches, between a potential Chris Jericho and Matt Hardy deletion match, just all those things. Like, I think this was a, given everything else going on, this was whoever in creative came up with this is a smart response to what's been going on in the world right now, and what creative, I guess, boundaries they can kind of push through with this environment that we're in right now, where wrestling has no crowds.
Yeah, I mean, once again, Lex got all the points there, and Wolf definitely providing that true comedic relief, which is true. I mean, yes, somebody technically can ask for like a jetpack on the side and be like, "Hey, can I just borrow this for a quick second?" Go up and retrieve the briefcase, or maybe just a really, really, really long ladder and just climb up. I don't know. Somebody can do something, or like, it's gonna be hilarious. And if somebody, I mean, hypothetically, if somebody were to get suction cups, if somebody were to legitimately try, I would die of laughter. And of course, I think the funny thing is I think somebody brought up that because Titan Towers, WWE headquarters, is being relocated, they're moving out of their spot. This is their chance to destroy everything.
Yeah, just smash everything to pieces. Just do like the old '90s commercial from the Super Bowl.
Exactly. Yeah, like
that comes up a lot. Yeah.
We could legitimately see that. Yeah. Let's go on to our final segment.
Sorry, one thing before we do that. Wolf actually proposed an interesting scenario a couple days ago about this match. The concern that fans could show up at WWE headquarters and cause like an issue. Does Wolf want to talk about that on this podcast?
Yeah, like, I think at this point we've heard that the matches may have been taped. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah.
And obviously they're building some sort of things. We've seen the photos of the ring on the top of the building. But I've read on Twitter like people saying, "Hey, let's hop in the car and we're going to go watch the finish of this match." Well, okay, if it is live, then you have a bunch of people showing up at Stamford, Connecticut to watch this match. And in this current climate, that's not really what you want, like a crowd of people gathering around. And if you are taping it and people find out that you are taping it, then you have people showing up all the time to look at it. So it's kind of weird. And you have the possibility of just drones flying over the building.
Yeah, for some odd reason on my end, Wolf was cutting off. Just to clarify, he was saying that people want to drive over, get in, watching tapings. Obviously, you're not going to know when it's going to be taped, and of course, drones could be flying around. Just a summary of what Wolf said. But yes, that's a very good point.
Yeah, depending on how they do it, it could cause a potential health safety hazard.
Thank you, host of Under the Middle Rope, Alex Mirza. No, it is a good point. It is a good point. It is a great point to bring up. Let's move on to the final segment of our podcast. There's a new segment that I've been wanting to introduce for the first couple of weeks, but the first couple of weeks had hectic news, and it's a segment that I had back when I did After the Count in 2017, and I'm calling it X of the Week, where we bring up either a superstar, a show, a promo, whatever it is of the past that we like, that we want to highlight for the week, and just talk about our favorite moments around with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce Superstar of the Week, because that was what we had originally, and the superstar that I wanted to bring up was Edge, because It's obviously it's been a great comeback, no doubt about it. He had his first match in ages, and I think if you guys have a moment or you can think of on the spot that you really like, whether it's in person or whether it's in the ring or a promo, whatever it is, Wolf, let's start with you. Do you have a favorite Edge moment?
Well, favorite match moment, I'd say the 2010 Royal Rumble when he came back from injury and won it all to face Chris Jericho at WrestleMania. I think no one really expected him to come back when he did, which was a good moment. The best promo, and this might sound odd, was after he retired the first time. And John Cena was about to face Brock Lesnar, who just returned to WWE.
Oh, right.
And
yeah. When he shocked us with his short hair, right?
Yeah, like that was like when he got to the root of like, John Cena, I don't give a crap about you, but I know you and you're better than this, and you need to be the real John Cena that threw me through 2 tables off a ladder and kicked my ass when I beat your dad. So that was a pretty good promo. That's one of my favorite Edge moments.
Lex?
Well, see, I am approaching this from a kind of an interesting viewpoint because, to those who don't know, I started watching wrestling in late 2014. I was introduced to it by my friends in college, who were a couple of them converted a bunch of us into wrestling fans. So my first memories of wrestling were way after Edge had already retired. I only really figured out who Edge was because it's weird, but I also watched the CW series The Flash, and he appeared on that show in one of these series premieres. He had a small role on one of the episodes. So that was kind of the first time I really saw. I had never. I'm sure I'd seen him in like other clips, but I didn't like really know who Edge was until I saw him on this TV show. And then when going back and looking through everything, I sort of learned he was this huge star, this huge deal. He did all those crazy things, and was one of the greats of all time. I'd say as far as matches go, I'd probably have to go with the WrestleMania X7 ladder match, where famously he speared Jeff Hardy off a ladder to the ground. Still one of the craziest things I've ever seen in wrestling. And promos, I guess I didn't watch a lot of. I wasn't watching wrestling when Edge was a big deal, was a top guy. As far as Edge memories go, I do remember when he and Christian did an Edge and Christian show, and the Authority attacked them, and Seth threatened to like break his neck if John Cena didn't restore the Authority to power or something like that. And then had the great line like, "I'm just kidding, I'm gonna kill him anyway," or something. I went to go do it, and it's like, oh my god. But yeah, I guess promos I've seen from the past, I didn't, obviously didn't watch live. I know his retirement speech is, something else. And I guess others, I'd have to say, if I could think of any, I guess what just came to mind probably, it's not really a promo, but when he and Lita had that celebration of his championship win in the ring.
Yes, that celebration.
That was very memorable.
Wolf is aware, as the face that he's making right now. He is aware of the of that instant promo. We can call it a promo if you want.
As far as like just moments though, I guess I do remember when they did the ECW revival show, the One Night Stand show. And I think he and Foley and Lita had like a 6-man tag match against, I think it was Foley, Dreamer, Beulah, and somebody else. And they cut a great heel promo. The crowd was hating it the whole time. And there was all these like you Edge, all this stuff, like they hated him. And then by the end, he showed up during Cena's match against Rob Van Dam and speared Cena and helped Rob Van Dam win the title. So he went from F you Edge to thank you Edge at the end. So he was definitely a very special talent. And I'm sad I didn't get to see him in his prime, and when he was one of the top guys of the whole company and one of the great wrestlers of all time.
So I'm not even gonna bring up an in-ring moment. You guys have seen the photo, so I'm gonna share it here. I'm gonna go back to August 2004 in Toronto. What we used to have one of our amusement parks called Ontario Place before it was shut down. Ontario Place had a WWE SummerSlam day where you had superstars all across at many different parts of the park for autographs, and I first lined up for Lita, which was awesome, and then I lined up for Edge, and here's the photo now for those that have never seen it, but that is a young me meeting Edge 2004. So I was 10 when I met him, and of course we couldn't be up close to take photos with him like we did with Lita. So my dad was taking them from afar, and there was a security guard trying to block us through. He signed like a book that I had, and then my little brother had a custom WrestleMania 20 hat that another cousin of mine like made in her factory for us. So it was a little light blue, and Edge signed that, which was great. And so I had a quick chance to meet him. I asked him where was his Intercontinental title because he was IC champ at the time.
Mhm.
Didn't respond to it, but it was just happy to meet me, and that's what matters. In terms of like in the ring stuff, I mean, yeah, you brought up TLC 2, which is ridiculous for me. I want to say like, I want to say like his return at the 2004 draft lottery was pretty great when he speared Eric Bischoff. That was a fun moment that I had. But I just remember him for just being that crazy heel. And yeah, you brought up like, the Edge and Lita, the crazy rivalry with King, with Cena, with all that jazz, rated RKO. So, but I think at the end of the day, like, it's just the fact that I got to meet him, I think was pretty special. And I think that's how I want to end this off. That's how I want to end off this segment. So that is that, gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming on. Lex, thank you for coming on for the first time. Wolf,
Of course.
You like practically live at this podcast at this rate. So
yeah, I'm the Tommy Dreamer of this place.
I'm pretty sure we're gonna see you in a few weeks or so. Let me get to the closing once again. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll talk soon.
Peace.
You made it to the end of the episode. You made it, and it's hard to rehash everything that was said already, as I've been doing to close out these episodes. Other than just saying, I hope that those that have been affected by this talent-wise find a new home. I hope that they get put on a much better platform for the most part, as most of them do deserve that better platform. And the only thing I can just keep saying is just, stay strong, keep pushing forward. I don't want to oversaturate it with the motivational stuff because I've seen it and it just comes a bit obnoxious for sure. So I think that's where I want to leave off with that. Just keep pushing forward. And that's all I really got to say on that. For next week, it is the debut of Patreon of the Month, where we ask one of you guys to submit a topic for the show. So if you're a level 2 patron, I guess I could say a middle row patron or a $3 patron, there will be a post that will be released. You guys will get to submit all your topics in, and I will choose one of them. You guys will get a shout out, and we will discuss that and share our thoughts on that. So that is that. Thank you so much for watching. You can find me all here on the social media platforms. Patreon, become a patron, please. Help support the podcast. You can available wherever you get all your podcasts: Spotify, Apple, Google, etc., etc. Go here, subscribe for all future episodes, and if you want to check out the latest episode, right there in the bottom left. I gotta be better at this. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. We will see you guys next week. Have a great one, guys.